An effective mentor has got to ask the right questions and express pertinent thoughts to go along with them. I'm willing to accept that responsibility right here and right now. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate and lead and inspire. And today I'm hoping to do all three: educate, lead, and inspire. And these are just some thoughts in our troubled times and some questions that go along with it, not necessarily in that order, that if you're not asking yourself these questions, allow me to mentor you so that you can think a little bit along these lines. First on the docket, we are welcoming a new vice presidential candidate, a black woman for the first time, Kamala Harris. All right, fantastic. We're making some moves, we're making some steps. You know, when I think about this quote-unquote progress in our society, the first thing that I thought of was the 4-minute mile. What has one got to do with the other? Well, it was thought years ago that man was not physically capable of running a 4-minute mile. And then, when Roger Bannister finally did it, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of other people started to do it. Today, even high school kids are running 4-minute miles. So what's my point? My point is that once something gets accomplished, then other people believe that it can get done, and it gets done. Because someone has seen the evidence. Up until that time, they say, oh, we can never do that, we can never do that. Well, we can, and we are doing it, which is a great thing. Which leads me to the question. During this summer of civil unrest and the Black Lives Matter movement, for lack of a better term to call it, it's important that the people that are in charge of that movement keep it on a front burner. It's important that the people in charge of that movement, in order to make sure that it becomes a reality, not just something that like made news for a couple of weeks, which I feel there's a danger that that's happening. These leaders must bond with politicians and make this a standing issue for people that believe Black Lives Matter in the community, so that the politicians are speaking about it when they are making their campaign rhetoric. Because we need to hold politicians to make sure that these changes get made. And the only way we're going to do that is to make this a big political issue. So there's a pretty fair amount of time, I don't know, 70 days or even more before the elections. It's going to be very, very important that the people that are focusing on the Black Lives Matter movement keep it on a front burner. Make it a political necessity for a candidate that wants to get elected. Just a thought. Next thought. You know, I'm old enough to remember when we've had a president that was like unbelievably over to the right and a Speaker of the House that was unbelievably over to the left. Or I should go the other way around since we're doing a camera, right? Okay, but, and the one that I remember is Ronald Reagan, and you couldn't get more to the right than President Reagan, and you couldn't be more to the left than Speaker Tip O'Neill. By the way, he wrote a great book called Man of the House that I strongly recommend you read. It's a terrific, terrific book. Anyway, these two people had viewpoints that couldn't have been more opposite. Yet, they sat down together. They got to know each other. Reagan wanted to hear stories from Tip O'Neill about his relationships with the Kennedys, his relationships with Mayor Curley of Boston. He wanted to hear, and they got to know each other, and they got to tell jokes together, which didn't necessarily mean that their viewpoints, you know, became congruent, because they certainly didn't. But they were able to, in a friendly manner, work on their differences and get a lot of things done during the Reagan administration. Reagan is looked up to by many, many, many people as far as being one of the best presidents. I'm not so sure, but that's my individual view. But most people put Reagan right up there, all right, as an outstanding president, the great communicator. And one of the things that Trump likes to say is that he is a president like Reagan. He's over to the right, okay, but there's no spirit of cooperation like we got from Ronald Reagan with the opposing party. As a matter of fact, it's like oil and water, oil and vinegar. I mean, it's just awful. It's just awful that there's no communication, there's no trust, and there's nothing that gets done without a fight. So before you compare yourself to Ronald Reagan, who said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, talking about fake news and talking negatively about Sleepy Joe and all of these types of things does not bring you closer together. So let's wake up, let's work together, let's get something done. This pandemic isn't going away. It hasn't been on the news for, a big headline on the news lately. They've been talking about politics. They've been talking about the post office. Okay, this isn't going away. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So these 70 days or so should not be spent entirely on campaigning. They need to be spent on getting something done. Switching gears. I saw an ad for a company called Just Desserts. And Just Desserts is, well, what they specialize in they're not talking about the entree, they're talking about just desserts. So that kind of got me thinking. Too many people out there in the 95% crowd are always focused on just desserts. They're not focused on what it takes, getting the eggs, getting the flour, putting it in the oven, cooking it, keeping an eye on it. All they're interested in is, and it's good to be focused on the end result, make no mistake, but they don't enjoy the journey of getting from taking the eggs out of the refrigerator to pulling the dessert out of the oven. All they're interested in is the cherry on top. And the way that I look at the analogy is it's kind of like a kid who gets a box of Oreos. And I myself would never do this, all right? But what does a kid do, okay? If the parents aren't looking, he takes the Oreo, he opens it up, licks the icing, and throws away the cookie. You can't do that in life. Nature has a way of giving us our just desserts, and it requires that we get to work in the kitchen, that we put on an apron, that we get the eggs, the flour, everything that we need, that we put it together, and we work on trial and error, and we put it in the oven and we cook. You're not going to get your just desserts just by thinking about it. What you have to do is you have to actually get in the kitchen and do some cooking. All right, let's talk a little bit about some politics here. First of all, the politicians came back. Today, I'm filming this on Sunday. The politicians just came back yesterday, Saturday, and gave the post office some more money so that they could do their job a little bit better. You know what? Here's a question that comes to my mind. Why didn't the politicians come back to make sure that with all of these people unemployed, with all of these people having zero money, they all agree that we need a stimulus package, all right? Nobody is disagreeing with that. It's just the specificity of how you want to lay it out that's causing the problem, that's the monkey wrench in this thing. And why didn't they come back for that? Why did they go away in the first place? Why didn't they make a commitment and say, hey, we can't go on our summer vacation until the American people that need this stimulus package receive it. Why? Because they are focused on their own self-interest, which is, hey, I want to make sure that the people can vote for me, so I need to make sure that the post office is operational, and I'm coming back to make sure. No one's even talking about the stimulus package right now. And here's something that you have to remember as a politician and take it to your grave. The politics of poverty, which is what we have a lot of people that can't pay their bills, the politics of being impoverished is very narrow. You know what it consists of? Food and shelter. There is nothing else. If I can't put food on the table, there is nothing else. I don't care about voting. I don't care about climate control. I don't care about anything else that's going on out there. All I care about is having food on the table for my family. Just a few questions and a few thoughts to share. And I have a few more that I'm going to expound upon next time we get together. So think about these things. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.